All right, before we get to the episode, I want to let you guys know that we needed a little support, and we have been supported by Manscaped. So Manscaped has gone on and sponsored the Growth Now movement, and Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. They offer precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Guys, look, the show needed support, and I needed support. So I went out, I got the Lawnmower 3.0. This third-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents. And guys, you know, when it's about to be date night with your woman or, hey, a first date, I'm not judging, but you needed to clean it up down there, right? You needed to keep it clean and precise. And all of a sudden you get that accident, right? You nick your balls. It's one of the worst things that you could possibly do. It is painful for days, and you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Well, this doesn't happen with the Lawnmower 3.0 from Manscaped. Look, this device is premium. The battery lasts for up to 90 minutes, so you can take a longer shave, guys. It's waterproof technology, allows you to groom in the shower, even has an LED light so you know where you are grooming. I'm telling you right now, it's nick-free. This stuff makes it so easy to trim your balls, saves you a ton of time, so you can focus on the important things like your loved ones and your job. So make sure you guys go ahead and grab it. Let's get that bush to tush clean. You can get 20% off plus free shipping with the code GROWTHNOW at manscaped.com. Make your testes your besties, folks. And ladies, if you're listening, this is a great stocking stuffer for your man. We know that you don't like it when it's a little messy down there, so why don't you just go ahead and do the work for him? Grab it for him, give it as a gift. This is perfect, and he's going to really, really appreciate this gift, whether it be now or at the holidays. Make sure you grab it for them. And look, let's be honest, you're actually grabbing it for yourself. So it's a great gift, win-win. Again, get 20% off and free shipping with the code GROWTHNOW at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Just use the code GROWTHNOW. Trust me, guys, your balls will thank you. What is the secret to unlocking your full potential? What makes your idols any different than you? How do you become the person you've always wanted to be in life? This is where you get all of your questions answered. My name is Justin Shank, and I sit down with some of the most epic individuals who are changing the world with their actions in business and in life. We discuss how they did it, why they pushed themselves, and more importantly, how they were able to focus on continuous growth to achieve their dreams. Welcome to the Growth Now movement. This week, I sit down with Jon Kazarian. Now, as you may or may not know, this year I had to switch Growth Now Movement Live to virtual, which I titled Growth Now Summit, a Virtual Experience. Now, before I decided to do that, I knew I needed to find a platform that worked for me, that delivered the kind of excitement and human connection that my audience is used to experiencing. And that is when I found Accelevents. Now, Jon is actually the CEO and founder of Accelevents, and I think you guys are going to love this conversation. We get into why the world has shifted to virtual, what we feel the future of this virtual online presence is going to be for entrepreneurs going forward, and how we're able to evolve and adapt in order to deliver such a high-value product for our audiences that follow us. We really dive into the ins and outs of how to promote and what's the importance of it and how are people utilizing these platforms to grow their business. And it's just a really great conversation because I enjoyed Accelevents so much that, you know, it was just an honor for me to sit down with the guy who founded it and his thought processes behind creating the business itself. Now, before we get there, I want to remind you guys that we have Growth Now apparel ready for you to grab. So head over to growthnowapparel.com. Get your shirts now. Some are on a limited run, so they'll be running out shortly. And then beyond that, we'll be coming out with some new stuff. So keep checking back, growthnowapparel.com. Grab your apparel now. And now, without further ado, let's get to the episode with Jon Kazarian. Jon, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Very rarely do I interview somebody after I use their product, after I use the thing they've developed, the company that, you know, worked with the company. But you are the CEO of Accelevents, and anybody who's followed me, heard about the virtual event that I hosted, they know that I touted Accelevents. I mean, I was on podcasts across the board beforehand talking about, I found this platform. This is what makes it exciting for me again. And the event at the end of the day, was a massive success because people were able to interact, be a part of, connect with each other, all that stuff. And you guys are obviously the catalyst for that, man. But why don't we talk about who is Jon today as the role of CEO in Accelevents? How did it all start? And then we'll break down all the good stuff in between.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's going to be a fun conversation given your past experience. So, in terms of myself and where we are today, it's certainly changed quite a bit over the past 6 years now, but even more so over the past 6 months. And one of the things that I'm up against right now is trying to go from that executor position to more of the coach, leader, manager position. That certainly has its own set of challenges. But I can run you through the story of where we came from.
I would love to, because obviously I found you through Google. Like, it wasn't some magic. Usually a lot of times it's like, my friend told me about this, or like it was recommended by this person. But I found you through Google and I was like, this kind of makes sense. And I don't really know the backstory, so I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah, so actually the backstory starts in Chatham.
Oh, nice.
Chatting about that. So my buddy and I had been throwing these pig roasts and clam bakes on the beach in Chatham for a couple of years, got a pretty good turnout. And at the end of one of those weekends, I got some unfortunate news about a family member who was diagnosed with cancer and wanted to do something for her. Got back to Boston and thought about running a marathon, but realized that we were half decent at drawing a crowd and could raise way more money if we put on an event. So went over to the aquarium here in Boston, put my credit card down, realized I had to sell 185 tickets to break even for that first event, and ended up selling 840 going into that first event, which led us to raise just about $65,000 in year one. But we also realized going into that first event that there was no affordable solution to facilitate the auction and the raffle digitally. We looked around a bit and there was a lot of tools out there, but they were all $5,000 or more, which we just, that wasn't in the budget. We were 24, 25 years old at the time.
Yeah.
And realizing that, there's enough tools out there, Twilio, and having a bit of a tech background, that we could throw something together ourselves. So we did that, and we got really good feedback from the attendees and from Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, the organization we put the event on for, that we decided to take it and run with it and provide this solution to more organizations at an affordable price point. So I did that for about a year and a half or so. And as we were doing that, we started to get feedback that these event organizers wanted a full service solution. They wanted ticketing and payment processing to be part of that as well. So we started building that out. And as we continued to focus more and more on the ticketing side of things, we then started to pivot more to the for-profit space. So working with more larger scale events like conferences and concerts and festivals and trade shows. So that was all good and well, and we were growing. Nothing astronomical on the growth side, but certainly doing a lot better month after month, year after year. And then February came, and I remember just getting like one alert on my phone after another of massive events like Facebook's F8 conference getting canceled.
Yeah.
And we looked at where we were at and what our options were, and we could either kind of wait it out, try to just go all in on our fundraising tools, which they were intended for people to be able to fundraise digitally, so they didn't have to be in person. But that wasn't the long-term play for us. So we looked at this and decided that the right answer was to go all in on virtual. And we already had a couple of the building blocks in place, which made it a lot easier to make that pivot. But at the end of the day, we worked really hard. The engineering team worked really hard, and we went all in on it, and that put us in a really good position. And as a result of that, we are we're growing at a rate of hiring on average 3 to 4 people a week now.
Wow, that's incredible. So, and I mean, that's obviously such a short window of time. But you talk about timing, right? Like, you're talking about, you didn't know this pandemic was going to happen unless you guys were the guys who started it. That's a whole different conversation, but you didn't know it was happening, right? Like, you had no idea that the world was going to shut down, no live events, no more than 10 people in a room. Now they're saying in LA, you can't even have your family over for Thanksgiving. And here we are. And so timing worked out perfectly, but you had to scale so quickly, and you still are scaling so quickly. What has that been like as far as your business hits a certain precipice? And you're like, holy crap, like what do we do? Because so many people can get to that point and have the opportunity, but they drop the ball. So how were you guys able to kind of navigate that portion of the business growth when everything kind of fell apart in the world, but you guys were the answer and the solution?
Yeah, that's, I'd say that's the biggest challenge. And I think it all comes down to the fact that we've been so fortunate. The people who have joined us have really stepped up, and I mean, the scaling is on them. It's not on me. It's um, everybody's just kind of stepping up to the plate and filling the gaps and coaching and helping each other. And that's what's allowing new people to get up to speed so quickly. And I think that's just becoming, one catalyst after another. Every time we try to implement a process, by the time we've identified what we want to do, it becomes irrelevant, just at this rate of growth. So we are just kind of figuring out everything as we go on the fly, and trying to add some processes to make us more efficient, but also not getting in the way of what's allowed us to grow this fast so far, which is the fact that people are able to think and do things on their own.
Yeah. So you talk about a lot of times being proactive and reactive, and and they obviously, when you look at that, the grand scheme of things, you want to be proactive, right? Like you want to stay 1 or 2 steps ahead. But in this world right now, I think a lot of people are being reactive. Now, as you guys are growing, are you realizing that you're reacting to some of the issues that are happening? Are you able to see the things that these companies are running up against, and then being able to be proactive and being like, okay, here's what's next? Because I told you my one little blip of an issue that I had.
Yeah.
By the way, very minimal. I don't want to downplay what you guys have done. And you're like, oh, we've already addressed that. And I didn't even say anything to you until I got on a call, because I knew this call was happening. I was like, you know what? I'll just wait till I talk to him and I'll say something. But you're like, it's already happened. So how are you guys handling all that stuff?
Yeah. So, that's more on the product side of things than the process side of things. We're very proactive about our big feature sets, the vision of the product. When it comes to more nuanced items, like what the thing that you had brought up earlier, that inevitably is more of a feedback loop. And we pride ourselves on our customer support. Our average response time is under a minute. That's how we're just constantly getting that feedback and evolving and enhancing the product. So yeah, I mean, to be fully transparent, that does lend itself to a little bit more of a reactive process. But we also, we dog food the product ourselves. One of the fun things that we do, the new CX people, customer experience people who join the team, they actually use the virtual event platform to host an internal event. So we just did a little pre-Halloween event on the platform, and we used the expo functionality within the platform and had everybody on the team go in there and build out an expo booth. And we did fun Halloween recipes this time.
Awesome.
Hopefully we didn't use up the recipe one before Thanksgiving, because that's our next one.
I love it. It's interesting. I didn't dive into the expo thing because, like I had mentioned to you, I didn't decide to do this till about a month and a half, 2 months out. So then it was like all of a sudden, okay, you got to go scramble and try and find sponsors while you're still trying to figure out a platform and do all this stuff. But if I go and do virtual again, I'm definitely going to dive into that, which is a great opportunity for sponsorship, great opportunity for people to learn about products that can help enhance their business, all that stuff. So is that something you saw somewhere else? Because this was the first platform that I saw that had something like this set up, where you could do like face-to-face calls with people in their booths and stuff like that. Like, where are you getting these innovative ideas? Are you a lifelong entrepreneur who's an idea man? Or are you learning from other people's mistakes? Like, how are you coming up with all this?
I think it's just a meshing of experiences and conversations with event organizers. My brother has a shoe insole company, and I worked the expo booth with him a few times here at the Boston Marathon, and I think they have 100,000 people roll through that expo. And I experienced firsthand what it's like to be in that booth, standing up for 3 hours straight, 12 hours a day, and every 500 person who walks by, you chat with one of them. So looking at that scenario and being able to see, like, how can we take this and make this experience better with all the tools that we have digitally, better for the exhibitor, better for the attendee, but also replicating some of the aspects. One of the other things that I used to do when I was at that expo is I'd go around and listen to other reps pitch an idea, basically do a demo, but I didn't want to engage the exhibitor, the sales rep, and get stuck in that conversation for 10 minutes. And we designed the platform in a way where a exhibitor can have that one-on-one conversation or that sales pitch with somebody who is more inclined, while other people can also sit there and eavesdrop. And it's just making those experiences more accessible, more feasible, and also taking away some of the components that in person can lead to awkward scenarios. And we just have so much opportunity to capitalize on this. That said, if you look at the big picture, I think that virtual events need to be looked at in a different bucket than in-person events. And I think that's what we're going to see when whenever COVID does go away.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit more about that. Obviously, that's stuff I'm interested in because I was a live person guy. I didn't want to do the virtual, found a cool spot like Accelevents, and I was able to build the event out on there. And it was a great experience for so many. People are still talking about it, which is crazy. Like I've never heard of an online event that's talked about still over a month later. It's really like, and a kudos to you guys for building the platform that allowed that. But how are you seeing like, okay, now there's going to be buckets of events? I think virtual events were kind of always there, but they really took a back seat. What are you hearing now about from these big organizations? Like you said, you're hosting an event right now with HubSpot. What are you thinking right now or hearing from these big organizations going forward? Like, are they saying we want to go back to in person? Are they mixing it together? What are you hearing?
Yeah, so it's very much a mixed bag. I can't think of a single organization that's told us that they're going to go exclusively back to in person. So it really is that bucketing of the combination of the two. But one of the things that's in hindsight kind of obvious, but we hadn't really considered beforehand, is that when you think about a big in-person event, it takes 3, 6, 9 months to put that on and pull that off. People have to buy tickets 6 months out so they can book travel. They need to get the budget approved internally. And now for a fraction, and I mean, a very small fraction of the cost, you can host this event virtually, and you can take it with the click of a button. You can repurpose it and reuse it month after month or quarter after quarter, and build longer term engagement with your prospects and your customers and keep them coming back and engaged. So it's kind of being used in a different way. Now, to go back to what you were originally saying about how virtual events have always kind of been there, but haven't really been what they are now, I think a lot of that is there wasn't so much of an emphasis on experience and networking. There were more of just a way to distill and share content, but it kind of stopped there.
Right. Yeah. And now it's so much deeper. And what are you noticing? Like you said, I like the idea that you said, look, like it's still different buckets. So you need to view them differently. So instead of trying to recreate your live event or the experiences people get from the live event, to kind of focus more on the virtual, like what are you noticing that people are getting more out of the virtual than they did live and vice versa?
Yeah. So for one, it's a much smaller commitment to participate in a virtual event. If you're going to a 3-day event in California and I'm in Boston, I've got to give up 2 days of travel as well.
Yeah, you're all in, yeah.
The expense. So it is just so much easier to participate in those events, which draws a larger crowd. Drawing a larger crowd makes it easier to bring in more sponsors and exhibitors. And then from the perspective of the sponsor and the exhibitor, they get far more access to data than they ever did in person. So it's a lot more enticing to them. I mean, going back to the concept of who knows how many hundreds of people walking by your booth in person. Well, now you know how every person is that stopped by your digital booth and what they did there, and you can lead score them, and you can prove the value to the exhibitors on why they're sponsoring that event and fully cover the cost of hosting the event virtually.
Yeah. No, I love it. And so I noticed, obviously, using your platform that you had a strong emphasis on not sponsorship. You had a large emphasis on people donating money, right? And so obviously you built this off of the precipice of, hey, we were doing this fundraiser, it went away, and now you guys have really built that in for organizations to be able to do fundraising during events and stuff like that. I've never seen that before other than on this platform. And maybe it's because I didn't do a deep enough search, but it seems very unique. Now, is that what's tied to your purpose of building this whole thing out and now giving that opportunity to other people?
Yeah, so there is quite a bit of fundraising functionality tools available within the platform. Majority of the events that are hosted on the platform today are not fundraising events, but for those that are looking for that, it's very much there. In terms of what's behind the motivation, I mean, it all goes back to just hosting events, like bringing people together, and whatever that reason is, if it's for fun, if it's for a good cause, raising money, if it's for education, if it's for building relationships, whatever it might be, if we can find a way to help organizations with that, then we're doing the right thing.
I love it. So what are you seeing for the future of Accelevents, future of online events? I know we touched on a little bit talking about, hey, it's still going to be there, but how's it going to grow? How's it going to change? Like, what's the future of what we can do online? And how are you guys really staying a step ahead? Again, going back to that kind of proactive way of thinking.
Yeah. So I think that goes into a couple different categories as well. On one hand, if you're thinking about it from the perspective of the organizer, data is a huge aspect of this. Historically, when you think about a marketing budget within a corporation, events, they've been more viewed as a cost center. It's been a little bit harder to tie revenue to hosting an event. It's more for just brand building, communicating with your customer base and prospects. Whereas now it's very easy to prove the value of hosting these events virtually. Not to mention the cost is significantly lower. So there's another helping hand there. I think as we look to the future, it's going to be a lot of organizations figuring out how they can capitalize on that, and how they can take that information and communicate it with their account executives and their CS team, and help to build deeper, stronger relationships with their customers using that information. But from an attendee's perspective, hybrid is going to start to become more of the norm. We'll probably see some more regional or localized events on a smaller scale. And then certainly having that capacity for people to participate virtually. One of the things I'm interested to see is when we do have a vaccine, obviously everybody's not going to feel comfortable taking a vaccine. You've already seen enough studies to prove that. But when it comes to deciding whether or not to host an event, there's a huge upfront cost to hosting an event in person. So I'm interested to see what companies elect to do on whether or not they deem that it makes sense to host that event in person, or just stick with virtual, even for a few more years to come.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are still going to have that fear factor going in. It's funny. I moved my event originally, when COVID first hit, and like, we're going to flatten the curve. I moved it from May to September. I was like, let's be safe. Let's move it to September. And then September was getting closer, and everybody was still like, yeah, let's go. Then the travel restrictions and everything made it hard. But I believe the fear in the majority, or not the majority, if you were to look at, obviously my audience was like, yeah, let's go. I need human interaction. But if you look at the world at large, I think a lot of people are still going to be fearful for many years to come. And so the idea of hybrid is super interesting. Now, how are you guys facilitating to that now? How can people kind of interact on both? Just coming from my own perspective, like if I go into a hybrid in the future, I'm going to want to use you guys. What's that platform going to look like? Is it going to be the same for the people that are sitting at home, or what's that all kind of look like?
Yeah. So right now our primary emphasis is on the virtual experience. Especially as we go into the winter here, where, well, there's no foreseeable in-person events, but it's really going to be about allowing attendees in person to interact with attendees virtually, and having tools in place to make that communication feel as seamless as possible, whether it be asking questions during live presentation, the polling, the facilitation through a mobile app, but also having displays up in the venue so that the people who are participating virtually can also see the people who are participating in the audience, see the speaker, and having that more two-way communication feel. There's a lot of technology that's being used in universities right now to do that, and it's going to be taking that and bringing that to more of a conference setting as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, it's really cool to see the quick growth of your organization and understanding the calm of like you're juggling something that could be the massive player in the future. Like, right, like you guys are really playing at such a high level right now, and I'm excited to kind of see where you go. And I would say, look, like you've created success for yourself. And the cool part about having the podcast is I get to interview successful people just like you. So my question for you is, what is your definition of success? And what are 3 things you're doing every day right now to ensure that success for you and Accelevents?
Yeah. I would say my definition of success is really broad, but building something. And that's what I feel like we're doing every day. We're getting better every day, and that's the product. That's the way that we interact with our customers. That's the experiences that we're creating for attendees. In terms of 3 things that that I'm doing every day to get there, it's continuing to self-educate, and that falls in a couple different realms. And one is understanding the space, Another is how to become a better manager and coach to the team. And then learning also about product and what tools are out there that we can get better with there. Another thing is communicating with the team, and that's feedback, both me providing the team feedback, them providing me feedback, and looking at how we can just generally get better on a day-to-day basis. And beyond that, I think it's doing the same thing with customers. Yeah. It's chatting with event organizers and learning what makes their event unique and special, and what we can do to help them take that even further.
I love it, man. So obviously this podcast is called The Growth Now Movement, and I wrap up every single interview with the same question. But before I get there, how do people get a hold of you? How do they look more into Accelevents? What's all that information?
Yeah, definitely. So I mentioned that we have super quick support. So if you come to our website, accelevents.com, just shoot us a message in the chat in the bottom right, and we'll say hi. Tell us how you found us. And you can also find a bunch more information there and on social media.
Yeah, and I will double down on that. The response rate is incredible. The first one is like within a minute. The other ones are like within seconds. Like it's literally like a true live chat, not this somebody talking to 30,000 people and hopefully they get to you at some point. Because there were moments of panic when I was setting this thing up, and I was like, oh shit, I have no idea what I'm doing right now. And I chatted with somebody, and I got an answer in a very decisive, very easy to follow manner. So like kudos to you guys and to you specifically, to be able to kind of trickle that down and let everybody know how to communicate it, the right way to do it. That's hard, especially at the growth that you guys are, the growth rate that you guys are going through right now, to be able to have that seamless action across the board. Awesome. So kudos to you guys for that. And thank you so much. Before I get into the final question, thank you guys for building the platform that gave me an opportunity to connect with my audience during this time. Because anybody knows who's in the event space, and that's a very small percentage of what I do, but it's probably the most important thing that I do. And it's important to connect. It's important to take your community and bring them together and allow them to connect. And you guys are doing that. So thank you for doing that, man. I appreciate it, because I wouldn't have, if I didn't find Accelevents, the virtual event wouldn't have happened. Like, because the other ones were not good enough. And that's not, by the way, like, you didn't pay me. You're not a paid person on the show. Like, that's just the truth. So thank you. But like I said, man, this show is called The Growth Now Movement. So I wrap up every single interview with this one question. And that is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
Biggest moment of growth. I would say the biggest moment of growth was that first event we held. That was really, that was so pivotal. It, taking the experience that prompted the desire, the need to host that event, bringing all those people together, that in itself was massive. And then looking back and seeing that was also the catalyst for the company that we've built today, and the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people who have interacted with each other through our platform.
Awesome, man. I love it. Jon, thank you so much for building the platform that supported my virtual event and so many others. And just thank you so much for being you, coming on, sharing your journey. I look forward to a little boat trip on the Cape. This has been phenomenal, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Growth Now movement. This is how you can really help me out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And let's grow this movement to epic heights. And it's all going to be because of you guys. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next week.